Hi, everyone, and welcome to Conversations. I'm Emily, and I'll be co-hosting this panel with Giulia. And we have a really fun panel today, and I'm super excited about it. This is inspired by our in-person panel at the European Chatbot Summit. And we just got such a positive response. There was a lot of engagement and curiosity and so many topics we didn't get to cover. So we wanted to kind of recreate this and do it for a broader audience and just get more perspectives in here. So just one change. Christoph is sick and wasn't able to join today. So Ray graciously stepped in last minute. So thank you, Ray, for being here. And thank you all for joining as well. So let's do a quick round of introductions and then we'll just get right into it. Ray, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, and thank you also for letting me come. It's a pleasure, and it's been great seeing you all at the Chatbot Summit as well. I was actually trying to have a peek there, but I had a panel myself on the other stage, so I couldn't see all of you, but I heard so much. So I'm very looking forward to this talk. Ray, jumping in for Christoph, as you already said, and I'm doing the AI and UX innovations part in Idea Bay AI.
Awesome. Michelle?
Yeah, sure. Lovely to be here, and thank you for the invite. I'm a conversational AI specialist with about 7 years of experience in the enterprise conversational AI space. I'm an engineer by degree, but always loved words and design. And currently, I'm the head of academy at the Conversation Design Institute, where a few of you might have seen me around in a few of the videos and things. And yeah, very excited to be here.
Awesome. Amy?
Howdy, everyone. Oh, I hear one of my kids singing. You might hear them too. We just got serenaded. The joys of live conversation, but that's also what makes it spontaneous. That makes us human, right? I'm a staff UX writer and conversational UX and product designer at IKEA.
Sweet. Eunji?
Hi, delighted to be here. And thank you so much, Emily and Giulia, for hosting this event. I'm super excited. My name is Eunji, and I am the founder of Designed Connected and Designed Minds. And I pretty much help companies develop strategies and design for conversational AI or any AI or UX related stuff. I've been working with a lot of exciting startups since beginning of this year, and super excited to share, and add thoughts to this conversation.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just jump right in. The first question I have is, what makes a good conversation from your perspective? And maybe let's start with Eunji.
Ooh, what makes a good conversation? I honestly forgot what I answered during the panel discussion in the conference. So I'm just coming off, fresh. I think, first of all, it needs to feel like it's, both-sided, right? Like both parties are contributing to the conversation, and it should exchange ideas and thoughts. And, the feeling of being heard and adding and progressing in the topic, I think that's the foundation of what makes a good conversation, what makes a conversation a good conversation.
Anyone else want to jump in?
I'll say something. I mean, just recently I experienced the opposite of a good conversation, which we'll get to later. But I think it should also be revelatory. Like, you should be willing to be a little bit vulnerable because expressing your needs. So it's not like people hedging and dancing around each other.
Ooh, I want to add to that. It's especially the dancing around of each other. I mean, it's a two-way thing, and I've been messing with this question, since 2016 at my Google Times, and I was like, it's both parties should have something from it. So it's helpful, but not only on the user side, but also at on the company side. So as long as the conversation is helpful for both parties, including the bot, then I think that's always a good path to creating a good conversation to have both of these stakeholders in mind.
Yeah. And just to put a bow on that, I would just say that it should feel like you've achieved something at the end of that conversation. Either party should have received something. There should be a level of accuracy. You should be able to rely on both the parties in the conversation. And obviously, we're talking about the context of conversational AI. So it should be fast. I mean, let's face it, it can't be a slow, drawn out conversation that goes on forever and there's no point to it. So ultimately, it's about achieving a goal. So if you meet all of these points, it's a good conversation.
Yeah, you haven't achieved anything if there's nothing helpful coming out of a conversation, right?
Although sometimes all people want is to be heard, and that was something
That's
we
helpful.
experienced at IKEA especially during the pandemic. Our customer service and returns bot Billy was getting a lot of requests to like make a joke, so, like make someone smile, make someone feel seen.
Yeah. So in building off of that a little bit, what separates a good conversation from a bad one?
Oh,
I'd love to take this with an example I've seen, like at least
Yes, go for it.
oh yes.
any type of blocker for the person who's trying to achieve a goal here and the main stakeholder. That could be having someone repeat themselves, having someone just expressing themselves but not feeling heard. These two things, at least, definitely big bad blockers in any type of conversation. You need to feel like you're moving one step further and not going backward or stalling in one place. So
also things that are overtly transactional and a one-sided transactional in a way. It's like, okay, I got what I needed from you. Now I'm going to freeze you out evermore. Because that was actually something that happened to me recently on LinkedIn. It's like someone asked for help. I gave the help that was requested, and then it was like, F you, bye. I wasn't even no one said thank you. It was just like, okay, taken, let's move on. Let's not even acknowledge the humanity of someone helping.
I guess in oh, sorry.
No, don't worry. Go for it.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to give a conversational bot example of that situation. I worked on a bot, customer support bot a long time ago, and there was this conversational flow that was literally designed to kind of like let things just go in the middle of a conversation when customers said like, no, you didn't help me answer this question. And then the bot goes like, okay, thank you, goodbye. And that was literally in the design. That's definitely not a good conversation.
Yeah, I think it summed it all up. If you say helpful, I take it from what we said before. It has to be helpful. And for me, helpful also means it has to come to an end. And there's a definition of an end. Somebody says something, somebody does something, somebody says thank you or goodbye or have I done everything for you? Like there has to be a spoken end to a conversation, which then gives me the fulfillment of this conversation was worth it. And I'm totally with you. There's so many conversational bots out there that don't really provide that, including promising to do something which they actually can't achieve. And this is getting even worse with AI, when the AI jumps in and says something that it knows by its model, but there's no functionality behind it. So it can't really fulfill what it promised, like a couple of turns before. And then you as a user, you stand there like, hey, you just said you could do that. And now you're telling me, I am sorry, I cannot do this right now. Can I do something else for you? And no, that's the worst case for me.
Yeah. And you also see a lot of bots saying, let me help you with that. And then at the end, they tell you, hey, sorry, unfortunately, you'll have to go talk to someone else to do this. So why did you start with let me help you with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as we're like starting to get into some of the also negative experiences that with conversational AI, maybe a question for everyone is, what do you think are currently like the biggest challenges that companies are facing, and maybe some mistakes that they're making in terms of like crafting this conversational AI experience?
I can jump in first. I think definitely setting the scope and expectations right is missing from a lot of companies' approach to building a conversational AI experience. Oftentimes I hear companies go, oh, like pretty much we want to replace the entire organization of, a service department or something, like by this one single bot from the get-go. And I'm like, okay, like, but they perform like thousands of tasks and you're expecting this one single step implementation to resolve everything or replace everything. And that's just not, realistic. And it just can't be done with this technology that we currently have access to. So, that scoping, what conversation or what are the jobs to be done that this bot will try to help, that needs to be defined well, and also setting the expectation when the users jump into the bot or the conversation, like what can it do, what can it not do. I think that's often, not done well, like Michelle said.
Amy?
I would say, to build on that, what Eunji just said was just something I read the other day in the New York Times. There was an op-ed about how a lot of AI is actually sort of destroying the lowest, the bottom career rung. And I've seen this as well in many companies where it's like you don't build in that base knowledge of having a junior coworker learn on the job. So AI is replacing, because of chatbots, like sometimes they're replacing customer service representatives, which is actually a really valuable way to really understand a company. And in companies like the one I work for, where people have very long tenures on the job, you start to build a base knowledge of the brand and its practices and your coworkers. And if we start replacing jobs with our coworkers or junior coworkers with automated bots or other services, then we're really losing that knowledge base and that expertise that comes with frequent human interaction or customer interaction.
Absolutely.
Michelle?
And I think the question was around like challenges, right? That companies face. So everyone wants to get in on AI, right? I walked into boardrooms where the senior most person says, "Hey, we need to let's make this AI in a week. You have this much time." And the assumption is that AI is fast and immediate and it can solve complex, difficult to solve human problems immediately. And that is just not true. AI can do some things, you can automate simple processes, but pick any problem in a corporate setup, be it like holiday booking or leave, setting up leaves in your HR system, that still has like 20 layers of complexity that we're not considering. And AI is never immediate. It is never, let's go on day one. And many companies have issues with legacy systems, not enough data, basic things like not having APIs in place for the kind of data you want to show. So I think these are the challenges. Getting your bases ready before aiming for the moon has been a long-term problem, and it's just amplified in the AI world. You just see people not being able to live up to the claims that they've made. So, yeah.
I totally agree on all of that. It's so funny how some of the basics that's always been in the way of companies are still there and even enhanced. Like what Michelle just said, people think I can put AI in that and it will work. And I could argue, basically, they're right. if you give the AI the perfect system prompt, and if you maybe enhance that AI with another model that has a different system prompt, and if you add a function calling into it that handles all the back end, so the AI actually knows all that stuff, and if you add some automations behind that that actually can process the things that have to be done and give it back to the AI, like saying, oh, I will send you a quick email, and that email actually is been sent, and the AI is able to wait, which means we have to have a telephone integration that can actually make you wait, and all of that stuff. So that level of complexity is so out of the way in the minds of a lot of companies that they only focus on that one really central part, the AI, the model, but forget that everything around there has to be there too. And on top of that, that means they actually have to spend money for paper. I always say, if you do UX design, if you do system design, that's money spent for paper, because you're actually not receiving anything out of it in the first place. But what you get is a plan that will save you so much money. So design is still quite important, and systems design with AI is the one thing that everyone should do first. And most of the companies, they just come from a standpoint, oh, let's put AI into it and it will be fine. It'll be fine. It won't. It just won't.
So
Can
how
I
do you
add-
deal? Oh, go for it.
Can I add one more thing? I just want to build off of what Ray just shared, and I think that's really critical to a lot of companies who are thinking about implementing an AI solution to their existing workflow. A lot of companies don't actually think about how adding AI to their workflow will change the humans, workflow. Like they actually just only think about what AI can do for them, but they don't think about, okay, what does that mean if we build this perfect solution that we want to implement? How does that change my role and this team's role and the entire work process around it? And I think that's so interesting how we're just realizing that just adding this mega tool into the workflow doesn't solve all the problem, and we actually have to learn to work with it or work around it. So yeah, I think there's some learning curve over there,
especially with what you just said, how it influences everything around it. I mean, as Amy just stated, some companies are scrapping jobs, and I do get that. I mean, there is a lot of jobs where you could say in 3 or 4 years, you just actually don't need them anymore. And it's a bad thing, also a good thing. I don't know yet. It's luckily not up to me to decide, because I don't own such companies, so I'm happy. But on the other hand, process design always leads to that, because in the end, even if you just focus on a user, you want to make it better for a user, which maybe means that you will have to skip a human in the loop, because usually they would be talking to them, filling out the form and stuff like that. So you actually really don't need that human anymore. Why would you keep them in the company and keep on paying them? So, but that means in a change process, which is also a process of design, you will already have to think about, before you even think about the AI integration itself, what am I going to do with this person? Am I going to help them educate so they can find another job in my company? Or am I a company who just doesn't care? So what the world thinks about it, if I let like 1,000 people go because I don't need them anymore, how am I going to handle all of that? And that's a huge design part so far outside of the AI, that with the hype that is happening around AI, lots of companies forgot about thinking about the big picture and the future facing picture. Like, how am I going to stand here in 2 years or 3 years and explain how we got here without losing my face, my market, my legacy, everything that people thought about me? I mean,
and I just wanted to shout out the comments, and lovely point, Ray. We have quite a few comments coming in. I fully agree with what Akansha is saying here, right? We can't completely forget to think about the people there. And I think, let's face it, right? We're talking about challenges to companies. The market is moving quickly. There's big news news lines everywhere that, hey, AI is moving fast, you should be making money, you should be, everything should be booming. And I don't blame people at the top, CXO level folks, the chief AI officers, who have to make these decisions, because there's so many options available in the market today. The tech seems crazy, it seems to be doing everything. So having a leadership team that's invested in AI enough in a mature way to take decisions slowly and give AI teams, all the people who are in this call, all of us, right, time to be able to show value is also it's a huge thing that folks at the top can take. Like, that's a decision that a product manager can take. So if we have people like that, going for slow, mature decisions when it comes to AI is so critical.
I think that's critical for every technology that you want to add. As soon as you want to add something that could potentially replace something that you already have, be it technology or human, you're going to have to have a look at it from all perspectives. And that's why I actually try and never say users, right? It sounds weird. I do talk about customers. Yes, they call in, but I don't like the word users, because it focuses so much on the customer for most of the people that all the other stakeholders are forgotten. And when you talk about stakeholders, you usually only think about business owners and stuff like that. But stakeholders are also the humans that are maybe going to be replaced. That everyone who touches this process, who gets in touch with the technology that you integrate, they're all stakeholders. So each of them has to be looked at and has to have a plan what you're going to do with them in the future, or how their process is changing, and how you're going to develop them. So change management and UX and AI, that's something you should never take apart from each other. It all comes along very well and easy, and it will save you money if you look at it from all these sides from the beginning on.
Anything else to add? Okay. Yeah, one thing I've noticed is that if you don't take the time to like craft the strategy, then you're just adding another layer of complexity to our jobs. And it's just, making our lives more complicated, and you still are not getting a good experience. So you might as well just not integrate it in the first place. So I was wondering how you approach stakeholders or even other coworkers potentially, or executives or whoever that thinks they can just integrate AI into the experience and just think it'll work. And how do you explain how much time and effort it takes to craft a good experience?
I mean, I've tried two things I can share about. One is, you stand there and you fight and you say, hey, no, this is not how it works. And you give examples and you build on your knowledge and you share actual practical examples. That's one. And it should work in most situations if you're already positioned as the conversational AI expert, the conversation designer, product manager who has the most knowledge on this, and people will defer to your knowledge, then that's great and people will listen. But in a lot of cases, let's say you're in a client scenario where they're more senior, they're very insistent on what they have in mind. Sometimes it's okay to let go, make that mistake. And I fully understand that feeling that all of us have, like, no, like, how can you go and, like, it's obviously you have to admit that it's a bot, like we all know that. But you know what, sometimes just make the mistake, it's okay. Like 3 months customers coming back complaining is going to prove your point anyway, and it goes against every instinct of ours. But yep, sometimes that's the way to go. It's the only way to go, because it's not worth fighting every small battle if you can win, like, the war long term. So
Amy?
Something I've seen also, to add to that point, is because I agree fully that sometimes you have to you got to touch the stove, or you got to let the stakeholders touch the stove, so to speak. Like, they touch the stove, but like because we're data informed or data driven, so they'll see and they'll be like, what was that? And if you can trace it. But I think one thing I was thinking of is also maybe not necessarily looking at the customer data, but maybe talking to coworkers. If you put it in coworker terms, like your employees, because sometimes they reflect back and mirror the most important things, the business problems, because they're the ones on the front line seeing this. So sometimes if you hear it from a coworker or an employee, who's meeting your customers daily, you'll start to get the most insight into where your real problems lie, and also how to fix them. So, I mean, if there's a chatbot that's not working, or generative AI is hallucinating too much and suggesting very weird things, it's your employees who are working with it every day who are going to know. So look to them, because maybe it's a little less scary for stakeholders to look internally before you start airing the dirty laundry, so to speak, with the public, or with data, engaging with data.
Anyone else?
I'm totally with you, Michelle, too. It's like you can't fight all the battles, and we had the idea that we're consulting a lot of companies who are trying to integrate that, and they all have their expectations and the way they want to do it and all of that. So in my feeling, first of all, I'm totally comfortable with saying, yes, this is all possible, because it is. It's just a question of how much effort you want to put into it, right? Mm-hmm. So when I come up with ideas, I usually ask for all the consequences that I see. So, okay, you want to do this? Have you thought about that and that and that and that? I'm not fighting it. I'm just asking, so I know how we're going to proceed, because those are most of the times the questions they never ask themselves, because they've been focusing so much on the outcome of the integration. So that's one part of it, to make it more educated, like, and not only on that one person, because I know they're going to talk to their bosses, to their coworkers, to their teams, and ask these questions, and they get into conversations, and then they come back and say, like, okay, we think this is going to happen like this and blah. So you start the conversation within the company and making it a bigger conversation than just the product owner. That's something that always kind of worked for me, which is somehow aligned with change management rules, right? You want to get all the perspectives, where I also add to Amy, that's the same as in conversational design, that those guides, they still count, they're still there, and they're still valid. So if you want to build something conversational, you should go to the people who actually have these conversations, and don't trust the PO who never been having a phone call in their life for this company. They have a good feeling. I'm totally aware of that. They have a good business insight, all of that. But to build that, actually, we need those people who actually have knowledge about that particular thing. And that is the conversation. So that's the biggest data all of the companies have. They don't even need backends. If you really mean, you could say for most of the use cases, you do not need a backend integration. You just need a good conversational guide, right? But it's more easy with data. So don't get me wrong.
I agree with everyone's comments and ideas. I think one thing that I would add is when I switched from being an in-house designer to external consultant, I think it's a lot easier for me to build that role as an expert coming in from outside and having that objective point of view. Whereas when I was in-house, working in-house in the enterprise, I think I often had to build my, credit, or, my, credibility with the people by building rapport and, like telling them that I'm on their side. Like I needed to prove that I'm not just here to build fancy design, but just, to be on the same team, and also, drive towards the same goal as the stakeholders. So I think that, convincing people that, yes, like I hear you, like I'm there with you, but let's be realistic. Like, let's break it down to step by step. What does everything that we're talking about, actually look like in real life? I think that really is important in managing that expectation and scoping.
So we do have a question from the chat. This is going back a little bit, and then I kind of want to get into trust. So let's get to this one first. So how do you think broken promises may impact the long-term user adoption of AI assistants?
Ooh.
Anyone want to jump in?
Have you ever been in a store searching for some item out of a category, and you found somebody, you walk into that store, you're in a good mood, you're like, oh, I want to go spend some money and shop something because it's Saturday and I'm off work for the rest of the week and I want to give myself a treat, so let's go and find a new pullover. So you walk in that store all hyped up and ready to spend money, and you just can't find the area where the pullovers are. So you see somebody who's working there, obviously. So you look at them, say like, hey, can you show me the pullovers? And they start running. They look at you and say, yeah. Start running. You run behind them, already getting angry, thinking like, oh, why are you running? I'm not in the hurry. I'm in a good mood. And then after 5 minutes running after them into the next level and the next level and the next level, they turn around and say, I'm sorry, I just realized we are out of pullovers. We don't have them anymore because it's summer. We only have t-shirts. I would never enter that store anymore, ever. Like, not because they ain't got no pullovers, but because that person I've been running after for the last 5 minutes promised me something where I think they should have known. Why was I running after them? Why didn't they just tell me, I'm sorry, we ain't got none, but I can show you something else and provide something else that keeps me hyped and keeps me in my emotion and all of the thing. And that's a broken promise. They promised me something. They made me run. They made me work for it. And then in the end, just to tell me, I ain't got that. I would never go there and spend any money. And if somebody asked me if they should go to that store, I would tell them, nah, except if you don't need any help. Go there if you don't need any help, but don't go there if you don't know what to do. So put that on a company. I don't want customers like that. If they call in, they should get their help and they should come out just as happy as they've been and even happier before they even started calling. So that's a broken promise for me.
One thing I want to add is that I worked with a retail company before, and one thing I heard over and over from customer survey and research was that, people's experience with chatbots or IVR or any sort of customer-facing bot interaction, that they've been, hurt or been betrayed or experienced the broken promises, that hurts the industry as a whole, right? So I keep hearing that, like, I called, I don't know, like this one store or one brand, and they never can get the inventory information correctly. So I don't trust your inventory information either, because you're both in retail, and I just don't trust this system in general. And I think that's really interesting for us, to think about how one poor experience or poor interaction affects the entire industry as a whole. And on the other side, flip side, when ChatGPT 4 came out for the first time, and people were just having so much fun, just chatting with it, and they expected the same level of conversational interaction with customer-facing chatbots at this retail store, right? And like they kept asking, like, why aren't you doing the same thing as ChatGPT? So I think it's a really interesting, I guess, thing to observe, that people kind of equate this whole entire technology as something that moves coherent, and they just expected the same level of experience across the entire board.
I agree. And even if you think about the other side, right, the customer side, whatever Eunji said, perfect, no notes, exactly. I've faced this where we've had customers are really like, they want this to work, right? They'll give you 1 chance, 2 chances, 3 chances in conversation. But then once that's broken, pretty much that, hey, this is not a product that really works, let me not come back. And this also applies to stakeholders. Maybe they've worked with platforms before and you're trying to build an assistant for them, and you have an amazing tech stack and you have the capacity to do this really well. But because they've had poor like, expectations completely shattered before, they'll come in and say, oh, let's not do that. Let's not even allow people to open the chat and have an open conversation, because we know that an assistant is not going to be handling it. Let's close up there's this popular trend of everyone just not allowing you to type in certain parts of the conversation, just forcing you to click. So really, really dumb UX decisions are taken because they've had their hands burnt before and they don't want to go down that route again. So yeah, everyone better build well, because it's affecting everyone's livelihood. We're all it all comes back, like Angie said. So yeah.
Why I'm so into trying to spread the word of the conversational and UX design again. It's a weird thing, because as you both mentioned, one thing can break everything, like the whole expectation and stuff like that. So, and if you look back, why are people expecting this so much? And if you go before the time of ChatGPT and stuff, we had these NLU flows, thingies, stuffies, and 2016, 17, everyone was hyped, right? But they didn't get what they wanted, so they started not believing into it. So they didn't want to call it anymore. So they didn't want to talk to bots anymore. That's why companies started rolling out key input again, so they don't, so people don't have to talk, or stuff like that. So, but that's how most of the humans still feel. I don't want to talk to a bot, not because I don't want to talk to a bot, but because they're stupid. They're just plain stupid. They don't never get me. Or if they understand me, they tell me I can't deliver. All of that together. And that AI hype, on our side, on the technology side of the view, we know now, oh yeah, we can do everything that we always wanted to do. And I just want to remind you, NLU flows always gave you that possibility too. We just didn't put the effort and the money into it, because that's really expensive if you go all through the nitty-gritties of conversations. So we didn't, but now we have the possibility. But that also means all the other rules, like designing it, making it worthy for people to call, making it happy, making it a good product, as you would with any product. I want to make this a good product, means designing, then researching on it, designing it, defining what it actually does, and testing. Lots of testing, be it prototype testing, be it POC testing, be it all of that. So the design path didn't change. The conversational guides, they didn't change. The only thing that changed is that we're not using NLU flows anymore, but we're using an AI now, or a model. It's not even an AI, right? So
actually, when you're saying this, I have two things going through my head. Number one, I'm not a chatbot designer anymore in that sense. Like, I'm not working on a customer-facing chatbot anymore. So I'm thinking, oh my goodness. But what about the broken promises from an LLM because of the widespread public usage? Yeah. Because I'm working on it right now. What I'm working on is a brand sort of LLM for internal usage for coworkers. And we also have our share of broken promises or hallucinations, because it's drawn from such a relatively smaller pool. It's supposed to be, chlorinated and sanitized and safe. So my manager has often said that in terms of like broken promises to users, even if it is just internal usage, it's not a 1 or a 0, like a true or false binary, as much as it's a 1 or -1, because people have such high expectations for using anything that's LLM based. So I think it's important that if we're talking about an LLM context, that we're also talking about training the bot, that it learns from its mistakes and making that very transparent, like you had said, Ray, like just making sure that the bot reassures someone, like, yeah, I made a mistake, but by you telling me, like your feedback loop of telling me this was terrible, that's really valuable, and we can learn from our mistakes. There's a great, I think it was Nelson Mandela quote. It's like you either win, like you win a customer or win someone's trust, or you learn something. And I think bots or any kind of AI interaction should build on that.
let me pick up on the transparency there, because I also see Hector Michael's question. It's a weird thing. This internal thing, it's something that I would recommend everyone also to try out, like all the companies, because you can learn so much in there, and things are more easy to go wrong. It's like it won't hurt you so much. So transparency is not only there to tell people what we're about to do, it's also to get feedback before you even start, right? That's one of the parts. You get feedback. Do people internally, externally think the same as you? And what are the questions coming up? So all of those questions about what you're planning to do, they will also already give you a design guide for the documentation, for the onboarding, for all of those things. So even if I did something wrong in my system prompt, in the whole system architecture or whatever in an internal project, I'm pretty sure I already have that covered with my documentation, just because I made all of the things that I want to do transparent, took the time to actually look at the feedback and answer those questions. Like, what happens if somebody says that does something wrong, or if the LLM gives me wrong information, what am I supposed to do then? Typical questions that come back. And you need that time. So it's not technology only. It's human, it's technology, it's system, which is technology too, I know. But all of those users touching that one thing that you're trying to implement, you should reach out to them transparently, ask them, let them ask questions, answer the questions that you already know, find the answers to all the questions that you don't know yet, because they're going to be important. As soon as one person asks something, it's an important question because they're on your stakeholder list. And you would never tell any of your stakeholders, yeah, I don't care. It's your problem, not my problem. It's not a design thing to do. So take the time. Transparency is important for so many reasons, more than just, I told you.
Mm-hmm. Just want to expand on the whole, conversation about transparency and trust. Another thing that I think a lot of people should care more is the brand trust. So, because AI is like, we hear this all the time, and we know this, garbage in, garbage out, right? The data is so important. And, when, especially when we design a AI interaction, I think everyone kind of, hit this point where we struggle, like, is this too creepy, right? I think it's easier for the users, wherever it's internal facing or external facing. But, when the tool is just, going off board and start citing like, hey, Ray, you're based in, Munich, and, like giving you all this information, when you haven't asked, which, you don't really feel like you're in control. But if it's coming from a conversational bot, that a brand that you don't really have deep trust in, I think that really is detrimental to the entire brand experience. And there was a research that I've done some time ago that when the customers or, general public's trust towards the brand is higher, they're more willing to share their data for AI usage, and they give more consent for the companies to be more proactive in building a conversational bot that is helpful, right? Because it's such a fine line of a bot being helpful and being creepy. And I think, having that brand trust and brand image, or whatever that is, that people are okay with your brand using their information to build something helpful. I think it's really important for especially the leadership to consider when they want to build something with conversational AI.
So actually, I'm going to plug in another question here. And I think this relates to kind of trust and how we bridge that gap maybe between what companies are putting out there and how we help people feel like they can trust the experience. So the question is, as AI-powered bots evolve rapidly, are we designing interactions that help humans evolve too? do they feel confident and empowered? And how is this aspect ensured?
Maybe I
Just
can take
reading that question. Go ahead, take it.
Yep. So I think when it comes to helping humans evolve, I think that's a much bigger topic. But at the least, your AI assistant can do is not make you feel dumb, not make you feel like you have to repeat yourself, or make you feel like you didn't phrase the question correctly. You can at least, the assistant, the least it can do is try to find a close intent, try to match up intents, try to do these basic things that AI assistants sometimes just don't do. And that in itself can prevent your customers from being frustrated, from having to repeat themselves, from feeling like they're just not heard. And I think that, I suppose that answers a part of the question, Akansha, which was how can you design interactions that at least help your customers feel like they are not dumb for asking whatever they ask for. So yeah, set things up correctly to make sure that your bot is moving conversations forward, which I think echoes a lot of the things we've been discussing so far.
Ray, you want
I'd like to go into the evolve part because that really took me. It depends on what you define on evolve, of course. I'm not talking about the next evolution of humans, but what I did see and also did hear, I was recently talking to a junior group of UX people, and research is something weird, right? Researching a topic because you want to make sure you've seen it from all the angles, from all perspectives and stuff like that. And our brain is really going on fire there sometimes when you go into a deep research. And I already said the word deep research, right? And you can't handle all of the information, and so you start focusing on something specific, maybe something that even interests you as a person more than something else around it. So it's getting quite one-sided sometimes, not all of the time, but sometimes if you're going into a research around a question. And so they've been starting to use deep research on Gemini, which is a fun part. It's really deep and it follows your prompt quite good and stuff, and it has Google search behind it and all of that. So it actually doesn't do something else than you would do, start Googling, right? But it does a research out of it, including a report that is formed in the way that you wanted it, without any emotions, without anything behind it. So suddenly they came back and said, like, you know what, I've understood things about this product or this question that I never would have thought about just because they were out there already, put them together and presented to me in a way that is helpful for me to understand too, because I've been actually asking the question. It was my question that this report is based on, the way I phrased it, the way I told it to set up the report. All of that came from me. So I know everything is in there, and I took the time to read it, and all of these steps would have taken me 2 weeks. And now I have this knowledge I wanted, plus knowledge I would have never gotten. So they felt evolved in their jobs because they gathered information, and then that made them feel better, and that made them feel not only more productive, it is more productive, but I really don't care about that. It's about how they started seeing the world around something. And that's their knowledge to keep. So the next time they go somewhere and talk about a next product, they will have all this knowledge in their head and can immediately give you the input. So some of these junior UXers, they evolved within 15 minutes of a deep research at Gemini, farther than some of the senior research UXers I know in my life. They would never get there. And only because of one thing, they were not afraid to use a tool, but also the UI of it is good. It's helpful. It leads you to where you want to be. So this combination of UX, UI, and deep research and LLM, it helped them evolve. So I would say yes. And if that's something you want to achieve, then you're on the right track on producing a product that is actually helpful. And that's how it's supposed to be, right?
Anyone else want to jump in? Giulia?
I think, yeah, maybe we can move on to, I saw another question in the chat. It's talking about branding of AI, chatbots, or LLMs, and what how do you best go about initiating changes with the stakeholders? And is it misaligned enough? Should I, as a designer, consider that something is out of touch with emergent culture? Yeah, so on the topic of branding.
Yeah, and I think this goes also to voice and tone and like keeping it consistent throughout. Then this is something Eunji touched on earlier with like the brand, and yeah, how do you keep that all consistent, even with LLMs and yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
Actually,
can. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go. You start. I'll start. My answer is going to be long because that is my actual project right now.
Nice. Okay, I want to hear more about that. But I'll kick off. I think it goes back to the strategy piece, right? If we're jumping into a project in building the product and building the conversational flows or workflows, I think it is really important that people think about what are the impacts, right? And what are the outcomes, and how can we actually achieve the outcome? Like there are, so I've been talking a lot about personal branding. So that's something that I'm still like thinking about. If you create a brand, or if you create a product that involves, that includes a brand, and you want to build a brand, but if nobody knows about it, or if people don't really like know how to feel about the brand that you're building, then the success of the actual impact that you want to make through this product or through this brand is going to be significantly more challenging than if you were to have that strategy in place from the get-go. So I think it's really important that you think about what are the plans to, first of all, knowing customers' trust in your brand before investing in a product, but also what are the plans for building the trust in your data and in your interactions, and how your customers or employees perceive you as a trustworthy entity before providing this bot that can just throw information at you or throw you around through process. I think it's really important. Amy, I would love to hear your project. Hear about your project.
There's not so much I can say to this audience because it is not a product that I really am at liberty to discuss outside of our internal work. But I will say that because I work for the brand, we do have 80 plus years of content and data that we can work with. Does that mean that everything we do is completely aligned? We're also in, I think, 46 languages and different markets throughout the world. So we have there's a lot of challenges surrounding localization, translation, interpretation, local interpretation of the brand. So how do we align this using the magic or not magic of AI? And a lot of it comes down to actually having a really good data set. So that's what we've been doing, is training it so extensively, more so than prompting. We have a lot of people who are really talented at prompting, but ultimately what really makes the framework valid is by training the bot to understand what is IKEA and what is not IKEA. And we have a methodology that we are trying to sort of distill and concretize into an actual process for creation, where we can also adapt it for each market so it's comfortable within their context and what their shoppers are used to and feel comfortable with. So it's a lot about training it and really looking into that data and saying this is what good looks like, this is what bad looks like, and testing it relentlessly, both internally and with neutral users. So it's like sometimes I think we can be a bit, as a long established company, sometimes the mindset can be a bit inside out. So how we internalize how the brand is perceived and then projected outside of the company. So a lot of that is important to both work from the inside out and the outside in when you're validating the data sets you have.
I couldn't agree more, because this whole inside out, outside in thing especially factors in when you're an external consultant or team that's working for a brand and building their conversational AI system out. You don't know the brand. Sometimes you just don't know the voice. So that's when an internal team, like what Amy was saying, that internal team can help set the persona, come up with sample dialogue, create a standard vocabulary in conjunction with the conversational AI team who's developing it, because ultimately the brand stakeholders know best how they sound like, how they react to negative situations, what happens when a customer is extremely happy, what happens if they start spewing all sorts of negative things. So you put that into a playbook. I like to call it the 3 Ps. You have your playbook for conversational AI, your clear defined persona, and then you push all of that into your prompt. And if you have all of these three working together in conjunction, you're going to have a fairly consistent voice and tone. And obviously, there's so much we could talk about having a playbook and a persona, but it's so easy nowadays to have a good persona. GenAI is so good at creating copy for you if you have a good playbook in place. That's why earlier, at least a lot of assistants we would design pre ChatGPT, pre LLM, had to be very bland, very vanilla, couldn't have too much persona, because everyone was very worried about, like, oh no, what happens if in certain situations. No, let's all have the same boring personality. But you don't have any of those technical limitations these days, so go crazy. I'm very interested in seeing when Amy's project will go live, so keeping an eye on that.
Come work at IKEA, then you'll see it.
Yay.
I think I have a little different approach to that. I just realized, but it's not far off. I'm just going step by step, kind of. So first of all, inside out is a huge thing, and just let me refer once again to the UX design cycle. Prototyping internally means internally, and that's where the internal testing is happening, and it should never replace actual external user testing, because we from the inside, we always have expectations that we want to see being met and stuff like that. So we're not, what's it called, when you don't have expectations, we're not whatever. We want to see something specific when we, and users usually don't, what they do, but something else. So don't skip actual user testing. On the persona part, I think I love personas. I really, really do. And I also believe they always add something, not only to the image, but also to the likability. And likability is something very important. But likability too has certain kinds of levels. And I already can like something if it just works, right? So if I just make it work, I will like it. And I'm hoping I'm not going too close to you, Amy, but for me, IKEA has a specific voice and a specific kind of speaking, and something that everyone, I think, all over the world imagines the same way somehow, like that Swedish persona with a Swedish accent and stuff like that, as we see it in the marketing stuff. But I wouldn't mind calling the LLM IKEA bot and not hearing that if it just works. So that's where I'm coming from. So, and it's the same on the conversational design guide. You want to make it work first, which is the golden path. And then you want to add all of that makeup. And I usually call persona makeup, because you're making something more pretty, not better working. And you can only make something more pretty if there's a good base. We all have a good base. That's why we all can use makeup. But it has to be there. We have to have a face to put it on. And if there is no face, you will only do weird stuff that actually is not helpful for anyone, neither for your users nor for you as a company, because it will come back to your image and they will say, what did they think? Like, well, why would they make it laugh and do jokes at me if it doesn't even work?
I would say there's one part of what Ray said, which I would put a little differently myself. A lot of times persona is taken as optional because stakeholders think that, hey, it's just one layer on top, let's ignore it. But let's say you have a persona of a banker who speaks slowly, is a very old traditional character who does things step by step, and you have the persona of a young 16-year-old skater girl who speaks very quickly and gets things done very fast and is focused on efficiency. Both of these characters would respond differently to the same request. It's possible that the traditionalist would give you step-by-step answers, wait for you to respond, and then give you the next step. But the second character, let's say a little bit more quick and wants to get things done, might just give you all the information together. So persona can affect journeys and how responses and steps are handled as well, which is why fundamentally, yes, one aspect of it is how bright a line of copy is. Is it very happy? Is it sad? But persona can affect the structure of journeys too. So think of it in both aspects, not just as the paint layer. And I fully agree with what Ray said. Focus on functionality first. If your bot is bad, but the persona is amazing, nobody's going to use it. So focus on functionality, but get the basics right. Get your persona sheet filled out. Decide these things early on. Don't wait till the last minute, because that's just not going to come across as consistent.
Real quick, 10 seconds. Whether you design it or not, your bot still has a persona, right?
Yes.
So if that's the same as branding, like whether you design or put intentions to your branding or not, your brand has a brand. So it's better to think through, in my opinion, that what should it sound like, feel like, things like that. But of course, like I agree with Ray said, it should work first, of course.
I think that's the
Yeah.
same. I mean, Michelle, what you just said, I totally agree. Persona is important, and for me, there's a certain kind of levels of persona in there too. Like they have like a wording guide. What am I saying, and what will I never say? That's actually for me not a persona, even though you put it into the persona sheet. That's a company guide, right? You will always use these words, and they align with even the humans. They should always. You have your terminology, and it should happen. So for me, it's not a feeling of that's a persona, but it is. It belongs there. And what you just said about you could have the fast speaking one or the slow speaking one or step by step. It's kind of persona, and I would place it there in that sheet. But first of all, I will put it into it just works. Because why would I decide to give you step-by-step guides? Because I figured out that the users that are calling in, they need those step-by-step guides. So it becomes a conversational guide more than it is a persona guide. So I totally agree with you. Put it where you want to.
But put it there.
Yeah, it has to be somewhere. Exactly.
It has to be somewhere.
So I'm really sorry to interrupt this. I know this could go on we should do a whole nother panel on this, I think. But we are over time, so I just want to make sure we wrap up. I know it went by so fast. So any last thoughts you want to share for people that are thinking about creating experiences, just really quickly, if anyone wants to add any? Yep, Amy?
Never forget your user. Like, I know the technology moves super fast, but like I said on the panel in Scotland, remember in the gold rush, it is the gold rush of AI right now, the people whose names you remember now are not the people who found gold. They're the people who made the byproducts, like Levi Strauss. Mic drop. That's what I have to say.
Love it. Anyone else?
That's it. I
Keep
think
doing.
everyone should just sorry, yes, go ahead, Eunji.
Oh no, sorry. I just said keep doing, keep practicing, keep making, keep building, and like thinking about building a bot or making a good conversational experience won't get you there. Only the practice and experience and learning will. So keep making.
100% agree. And I think everyone here, AI and technology is moving so quickly, but you have context that only you have. Nobody else has that background, that knowledge that you have, that you can bring into an AI team. So consider that context when you do anything. Bring that perspective, because only you have that perspective. Nobody else does, and that perspective is so important.
Create a stakeholder map. Put everyone who gets in touch with what you're building on that map. And before you have not talked to everyone, every single person, even those who you will add then, because somebody says, hey, you know what, I do have something to do with that, but my colleague too, they're not on your stakeholder map, put them on, talk to them too. Once you're through, then start building. Not before. Talk to everyone who gets involved.
Amazing. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. And this was such a great discussion. Learned so much. And yeah, stay tuned for more panels. And yeah, thank you for joining. Have a good night.
Thank you for all the comments. Thank you.